it, Mr. Sunak.
That's Britain's former finance minister and now leadership contender, Rishi Sunak, leaving his house in London just this morning. Sunak officially entered the race to replace Liz Truss today, joining Penny Mordaunt. But there's another familiar name, also mulling a bid, that guy there. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson returned from his vacation early, and there are reports that he and Sunak met. This latest UK Tory leadership race has opposition parties calling for a general election. Ian Blackford is the Scottish National Party's Westminster leader. I spoke to him just this morning about his party's frustrations and how the UK recovers from this instability. Ian Blackford, nice to see you. I appreciate making the time for us.
My pleasure.
So it's been a few days, so I don't know if you've had time to digest what's happened and what's happening. I want to start by, of course, getting your reaction to the news that Liz Truss has resigned, and not only your reaction, I guess, but also the reaction of Scotland.
Yeah, well, it's been a remarkable time, hasn't it? I think we've got used in the past, our politics been quite volatile and unpredictable, but my goodness, the events of the last few weeks have been quite something. Sad to say, the Prime Ministership of Liz Truss has been nothing short of a disaster. We had a mini budget a few weeks ago that alarmed the financial markets, crashed the pound, sent bond yields increasing, and ended up with mortgage rates increasing quite dramatically. So I'm sad to say that millions of people, when they renegotiate their mortgages, as they would have to do here every few years, people are going to be facing sharply higher costs. You're really talking about thousands of pounds a year, thousands of dollars. And of course, that's on top of the impact of the already striking energy crisis that we have, the cost of living crisis that comes with that. So her period in office has been calamitous, and I have to say I'm not surprised and sadly relieved that she's been forced from office. Nobody ever wants to see anybody going through the kind of humiliation that she has, but unfortunately I think she's going to be a footnote in history, and people will reflect on the damage that she caused. So we're in a situation once again that the members of the Conservative Party are going to choose a new Prime Minister, and here in Scotland that is not going down well. We haven't elected the Conservative Party in Scotland since 1955, yet we continue to suffer from politicians that we didn't elect that are out of touch with public opinion here in Scotland. So in essence, we want two things to happen. We want firstly that the public should have a say on this. There should be a general election. The polling for the Conservative Party has collapsed over the course of the recent past. They cannot continually change Prime Minister without going back to the electorate. And there's a real fear as to what would happen. And as things stand, there are three candidates to be Prime Minister. Boris Johnson, believe it or not, seeking to make a comeback. Rishi Sunak, the previous Chancellor, or Penny Mordaunt. We don't want any of those. We want the opportunity to remove the Tories from office. But for us in the SNP in Scotland, we've been in government here since 2007, so 15 years we've led the Scottish Parliament, and when we were returned to power last year, that was on a manifesto commitment of delivering an independence referendum. There's an independence majority in our Parliament here in Edinburgh, and we desperately want people to have that choice, to have a say in their future, for Scotland to become independent, but independent back in the European Union.
Well, the next election isn't until, sorry to interrupt, the next election isn't until early 2025, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not sure if that's going to happen beforehand. But to your point about Scotland, how is this affecting the independence movement in Scotland and what people would like to see for the future of Scotland because of this instability and turmoil in London?
Well, Rosemary, I think we're actually moving into a new phase, because much of the debate over the last few years has really been about process, about how we get a referendum. But the SNP published a major economic paper this week. The Westminster group that I lead has also published a green energy paper, one that sees us increasing our green energy output fivefold, delivering hundreds of thousands of jobs, really giving hope that we can not just migrate to a new green future, but one that would really drive investment into our industrial economy. So there's a debate to be had about what kind of country that we want to live in, how we deliver jobs and prosperity, and I'm really looking forward to that and seeing support for independence increase. We've had a number of polls over the last few weeks on voting intentions, and they all indicate that the SNP would actually increase the number of MPs that we have in Westminster. We won 80% of the seats in the last election. That sounds quite remarkable, I guess, to some of your viewers. but all the indications are at the moment that we would wipe out the 6 remaining Tory MPs in Scotland. So the party remains popular. And our job, our task, is to make sure that we present that vision, that we can deliver that more prosperous, that fairer, that greener Scotland, and really offer hope, not just for the current generation, but for generations to come, that Scotland can be a better place to live.
How much do you attribute the turmoil that we are seeing right now politically? Obviously it's caused by the Conservative Party, but how much do you attribute that to Brexit and to what happened in that decision and the way that has unraveled many things?
It's been a huge factor. I mean, we had a referendum in 2014, of course. I respect that result. We lost that. There was a 45% yes vote. But the thing that's fundamentally changed is that Scotland had no real desire to leave the European Union. 62% of Scots voted in the Brexit referendum to stay in, and all the polling over the recent while has indicated that that support has actually increased. It's way beyond 70%. So I think a lot of people, in particular those that had voted no to independence in 2014, see that Scottish independence as a route back into the European Union. Leaving the EU has been a disaster for us. It's shrunk our economy. It's been a real problem for our crofters, our farmers, our fishing people. We're suffering from lack of free movement of people. We're not able to attract the labour that we need. We have a major challenge here, and that is that we have an ageing population. Demography is not going in our favour, and we need that injection of fresh talent that would come from free movement of people. So the settled will of people in Scotland is that we want to be back in Europe, and I think increasingly people are seeing that independence presents the route for that. And I think that really will be the tipping point that will drive people into our arms. That allied to the argument that we'll deploy about how we wish to make sure that we deliver that prosperous green economy.
I only have about 30 seconds, but is there any chance that Boris Johnson becomes Prime Minister again?
Yeah, well, we'll find out tomorrow afternoon, if he's made it to getting the support of 100 Tory MPs to be on the ballot. I wouldn't rule that out. And I think people in Scotland are just horrified by that protest. People that I meet here that are mild-mannered are talking about public protests. There's a real sense of anger that someone that was driven out of office for good reason, a man that abused the privilege of being Prime Minister, thinks it's at all permissible that he could come back to office again. That is simply not acceptable to us.
Ian Blackford, so nice to meet you. Appreciate you giving your perspective today. Thank you.
Thank you.